In this video, I want to talk about 3 financial mistakes I've seen over and over again. It's painful to watch because it leaves so many men my age broke. Mistake number 1 is the biggest mistake of all, and it's what I call confusing assets with income. Let me explain with a simple example. We'll start with a 50-year-old man. Now, I know there's a lot going on my whiteboard here, but just bear with me for a minute. There's 2 concepts to think about: net worth and income and expenses. Net worth is measured at a point in time, say today. In accounting, we call that a balance sheet. Income and expenses is measured over a period of time, say for 1 year. And in accounting, we call that an income statement. For this man, let's look at his assets and his liabilities for a moment. Assets, let's say he has 2 assets: a house that's worth $500,000 and cash in a bank or investment accounts for $100,000. So the total is, in total assets, $600,000. Let's say he has a mortgage as his only liability. The mortgage is on the house that he owns, and that's for $200,000. The net effect would be a net worth of $600 minus $200, or $400,000. Let's look at his income and expenses now for the year. Income, let's say, is $100,000. Expenses are $100,000. So the net effect is he's not saving any money. Well, that's okay. He's got some net worth of $400,000. Well, the problems begin at around 50 years old. And I've seen this many times. Or maybe it's 47 years old, or maybe 53. Things intensify. Expensive private schools, expensive vacations, country club fees, a nicer car to go with the country club, a second home, keeping up with the Joneses. There are always more expenses. And let's say in this example, because of all that, his expenses jump from $100,000 to $150,000. Well, the problem is he doesn't have enough income to cover that. So now he's in deficit of $50,000. The question is, how will he fund that deficit? Well, he's got 2 options. He could use some of his cash, say $50,000, to cover the deficit, or he can go into credit card debt, which would be another liability for $50,000 to cover the deficit. Either way, whatever he does, this is what I call an attack on net worth, because if he uses $50,000 in cash or increases liabilities because of credit cards, the net worth is going to drop to $350,000. I call this an attack on net worth because net worth is what we use for future retirement. He just traded his future lifestyle for current consumption. His future retirement just took a hit. He won't feel it yet, but he will later in life. I've seen this happen over and over again. Spending assets or increasing liabilities to pay for current expenses. It's financial destruction, but it doesn't feel like it at the time. Younger people often struggle with this. They don't want to hear it. They know everything already and they're going to live forever. Older people find out the hard way. They're broke at 65 years old, and this is very sad to watch. My main point is, at a minimum, we need to keep net worth stable for future financial security, or better yet, grow it gradually. Let me show this in a graph. Okay, here's a graph on net worth, and this is what we want to see over time, a gradual increase. Here the man is 20 years old, here he's 65 years old, and the amount of net worth slowly increases over time. Albert Einstein is often credited with saying that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Now I want to show you the effect of the attack on net worth that the man in our previous example did. So he's going along fine here, all the way to about 50 years old, and boom, an attack on net worth. He needs money for colleges, for the kids, big expensive vacations, whatever. So it took a hit there. This is what I call a landmine. And then net worth, okay, he doesn't touch his net worth, but then he needs more money again and does it again. And the slope of the line is the same as this line here, the angle, the slope of the line. All during this period, he's creating this gap. And this gap is what will damage his future financial security. Mistake number 2 is what I call income extrapolation. I have a graph here with income on this axis and then age down here, 20 all the way to 80 years old. What happens is we start making money at 20 years old, and then by the time we're 30 years old, it goes up, and then 40 years old, it goes up even more, and then 50, it can really jump there. So you have this nice curve that goes like this, and the extrapolation problem happens because our minds have been trained to think that, oh, our incomes are just going to keep going up. Well, it doesn't really work that way. There's plenty of research that shows incomes plateau at around 55 years old. Now, I know there's lots of exceptions. Many guys I know, their incomes keep rising, but for most people, research shows this, there's a plateau effect here. And it goes like that, and then it starts to go down. And I've seen this many times. I have links below that talk about some of the research that shows this decline here. And what happens with our expenses, generally you'll see the expenses of the guys, they keep track maybe a little bit less than the income level, so they can save a little bit. But what happens is this. You see this crossover effect. Expenses become more than the income, and therein lies that problem. And that's what I call the attack on net worth and the landmines that happen on the net worth curve. Mistake number 3 is unrealistic employment assumptions. I know guys who lost high-paying jobs when they were in their 50s. Their assumptions were, well, they would just go out and get another high-paying job. Well, most of them never went back to their high earnings. Companies hire younger people. They're cheaper, faster, they have more energy, and they carry less baggage. It's hard to replace a high-paying job with a new job when you're in your 50s. And again, I know there are exceptions. An alternative to working for someone else is to start your own business. It can be extremely rewarding, and it can also be terrifying, and I know this well. Before there are revenues, you actually pay money to go to work. You have to pay for staff, for rent, or business travel, equipment, or whatever, and it can take a long time. Becoming a successful entrepreneur is a great feeling, and self-sufficiency is paradise, but it's not a quick fix from job loss. In this book, I want to share with you, it's called The 100-Year Life. The authors talk about how we are all living longer. They say the old 3-stage life of education, work, and retirement is obsolete and should be replaced by a multi-stage life with multiple careers that include retraining and relearning. I think this is something to consider. I have the link to the book below. In conclusion, we need financial security for well-being. It gives us peace of mind, calmness, reduces anxiety, it improves self-esteem, self-confidence, dignity, freedom, and it provides opportunities for bigger dreams. The flip side of all of this relates to wealthy people. How much is enough? I believe there comes a point when chasing more money becomes less important. But if you're not already rich, I suggest you keep your eye on your net worth. Appreciate the magic of compounding. Don't confuse assets with income. Be realistic about the job market and your earnings potential after 50. And finally, regarding keeping up with the Joneses, 2 points. Number one, the Joneses don't really exist. And number two, even if they did exist, they're not interested in what you have. They're too busy trying to make ends meet themselves. Thank you for watching.